Classic Markowitz, you have the risk and return, and your preference function tells you where, and you don't even have to know your preference function. You can kind of do introspection and say, well, I can live with this amount of risk for this return versus this point. But how much do you weight the, say, you shift your portfolio towards, let's say, longer-term bonds to hedge yourself against unanticipated change in interest rates, or hedge yourself against the shifts in the risk-return slope? That's less intuitive. For those who have technological advantages in the business, now I'm talking about producers, I think that complexity is a good news, because it's a barrier to entry. It's a way of earning, building a franchise, so that you should embrace complexity, not view it as something negative. And finally, to the people who are thinking of finance as a career, I think it's just, you know, it's a wonderful, exciting opportunity. I really believe there's a chance to do well financially by doing good, which is to do things that matter and have exciting problems. And while we have wars and depressions and recessions that slow things down, if you look at it from a longer horizon, it's absolutely clear that all the developing nations, and if you include as China's emerging market, have to redo their financial systems. It's also clear that the second largest economy by some measures in the world, Japan, a very old economy, has to completely redo its system. It's also clear that while we have monetary union in Europe, we don't have institutional union, so that's all got to be redone. So in terms of total need, and this isn't going to happen in 2 years or 5, so the need's out there. Now, the next thing that's exciting is that there's something you can do about it. You've got all this technology. I'm talking about swaps, derivatives, all these contracts, SPVs, all these models, everything. They're all market proven. There's 270 trillion notional amount of derivatives in the world. So the idea, are we going to have derivatives or not, seems to be no longer a question. It's a reality. It's a little bit like what we saw with a phone system. If you were going to build a phone system today, as people do in countries that need them, you wouldn't look at the United States and say, well, that's a great phone system. Let's put some telephone poles up. Why? Because it was a great phone system when it was built. It isn't worth tearing it down. But if you were building a new one, you wouldn't build it that way. You'd build it as a digital system. And that's the way it's done. Just so in finance. If you're going to rebuild a financial system, you don't look in the rearview mirror of how it was done, even best practice, but rather say, how would you do it using existing technology? So again, repeat, I believe long-term there's huge need. Second, there's huge technology to do something to meet that need. It doesn't get much better than that.